We are back for Civil Discourse Now with Len Farber, who is City County Council candidate here in Indianapolis. This is being brought to you from Big Hat Books in Broad Ripple, 3510 Cornell Avenue, just across the street from the Monon Trail, which is kind of a greenway or bike path, jog path that they created on the old Monon Railroad line. My grandfather was an engineer, fireman on the Monon. He got killed on a train in 1939. But this really neat bookstore here. There is space here for people who have special occasions and stuff.
And Mark, do you have a book here?
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yes, Crime Pays, a fictionalized account of a Ponzi scheme from Kokomo, Indiana, in the late 60s. And yes, Crime Pays. And it's here available at Big Hat Books.
Lynn, one of the, your opponent, of course, is Ryan Vaughn, a prominent member of the Indianapolis City Council, president of the City County Council. So you are taking on a pretty big name. Why do you think, if a voter is inclined to vote for Mr. Vaughn, why would you try to convince that voter not to?
Well, as I tell people, there are two main issues that I think that I can show difference from my opponent. One is the belief in listening to the neighborhoods, finding out what's needed in each individual neighborhood and every neighborhood, not just the Broad Ripples, but the Ravenswood and all the other neighborhoods, see what's important to them and try to help each and every one do what they want, not what some downtown lobbyist wants. Again, the parking meter deal, this was not something that was wanted in Broad Ripple, but it's something that was strongly supported. In fact, Mr. Vaughn said that he felt a need not to recuse himself because otherwise his constituents wouldn't get the benefit of his vote, and then he completely voted against their will.
But recuse himself, why?
Well, partly because he works for a company, Barnes & Thornburg, which was the major lobbyist for this deal, for ACS, which was the company that was contracting with the city.
Now, Ryan Vaughn would answer, and it did answer, that he is not a partner in Barnes & Thornburg.
Right.
Therefore, he does not directly profit off of those fees.
Which is true. And what I would like to see, one thing I'd like to see when I get on council, and with the help of, again, I'm going to be one of 29 councilors, but I think I can convince some others that this is important. We need to change the rules of conflict of interest. We need to change the rules of ethics on the council. If there is an appearance of conflict of interest, we should recuse ourselves. It shouldn't be this, well, I'm not directly making money, but maybe I'll get a little extra, or maybe something happened down the road, but it's not. No, this does not. If it looks like a conflict of interest, we should step aside. The other thing that I talk about is fiscal responsibility. Most recently, it's been in, well, not so much in the papers, but it was on TV6, this contract that Mr. Vaughn entered into for redistricting, which the other members of the City County Council did not know about for a while, till after it was signed. And he's basically giving $225,000 of taxpayer money away for no reason. $50,000 of this was set aside for redrawing precinct lines, which are needed to be done this year, to comply with the redrawing of the legislative districts and congressional districts by the state legislature. There is a person assigned from the state to help the city do this for free.
Well, you talk about redistricting too. You talk about the precinct line. You talk about
well, the precinct line is the $50,000 of this deal.
Okay.
Then $175,000 is for drawing the new council districts. He is spending this money right before an election. We do not know who will have control of the council after the election. And again, he did not put this contract out for bid. He said he remembered that they were an inexpensive company or an inexpensive firm to do this. There is software available. We can do this for free. we could go to the citizens like Common Cause and League of Women Voters want to do and say, here's the software, draw the lines yourself, let the citizens get involved, take a look at it, free software. We don't have to spend money. We could take a look at plans that the citizens came up with. People in the county could use this same free software, come up with their lines. We can compare, we can discuss, we can have public forums. We don't have to spend $175,000 to do this.
One of your colleagues, or she would be your colleague if you got elected to council, assume she got reelected, Angela Mansfield, who is an attorney, pointed out that the law says you can't redistrict to 2012.
Right.
Now, Mr. Vaughn said, well, spending this money now helps us get ready for 2012. How would you respond to that?
Again, it's something that we could do this without spending this money, so why are we spending it? If we're spending the money now, and if the Democrats take the majority, I'm not sure they're going to want to use a plan that was requested by a Republican City County Council president from a Republican attorney. I think the plan would probably just be thrown out. So if that's the case, we would have wasted this $175,000. But even if the Republicans kept control, even if they keep control in November, the availability of free software to do this, the possibility of having a lot more public input, we do not need to spend this money regardless.
And the lawyer who's received the contract for this, he's not just a Republican. He's been campaign manager for at least one candidate in the past.
More than that. He's actually a Center Township GOP chairman. He lives in Hamilton County, but he's Center Township GOP chairman.
And so you're asking that the boundary lines for the game be drawn by the captain of the other team.
Exactly. And again, I mean, there are two aspects to this that I think both point in the same direction. One is the political, that you're asking a very partisan Republican to draw lines, which may not be used if the Republicans don't keep control. And the second thing is the fact that you're spending money when money didn't need to be spent.
Because presumably both parties would be more than willing to draw the lines for free.
Exactly. I mean, with free software, you could have every one of the counselors draw the lines and put them all together and see what the districts look like. That might be an interesting exercise, but you have the ability to, these days, to draw lines without spending tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars.
So it's a waste of money.
It's a waste of money. It's a total waste of taxpayer dollars.
We have a tendency to, when we talk about that district, focus on Broad Ripple maybe too much. There's other neighborhoods in that district, correct? You talk about one, Ravenswood?
Ravenswood.
What are some issues there?
Flooding is a big issue there. And not just in Ravenswood. There are other parts of the district where I've talked to people, and flooding is just a major issue. And whenever they bring it up, they feel like they're ignored. I can't say that I'm, knowledgeable about that area. All I know is this: if I get on council, I'm going to be their advocate, and I'm going to read and learn as much as I can about it, and I'm going to push for whatever aid we can give them to alleviate the flooding problems.
Ravenswood is located off of Keystone.
It's off of Keystone.
To the
Just to the west of Keystone, and then on the east side is the river, of course, and that's part of the problem. That's lowlands that floods.
What are some other neighborhoods you have? Nora?
Nora is a neighborhood that's in the district, and with them, there's more of a question of crime. There's a lot of worry about crime in the Nora neighborhood. It's not so much, and the mayor will tout how murder rates are down. It's not murder. It's property crimes. It's muggings. It's holdups at convenience stores and drug stores, and people's cars being stolen or broken into. People being afraid. So there are some senior citizens residents where people are afraid to go out with their social security check when they want to take it to the bank or they want to go shopping. They're afraid to go out.
Well, and the people who are committing those acts know when those checks are issued.
Of course.
They keep track of that. And also, Williams Creek is in your district. And
It's a very wealthy area.
That's a very wealthy area. I mean, we have...
I think that's
we have
unfair to
everything.
say that.
Say Williams
I
Creek.
mean, to label it, see, it's class warfare again.
That's what I like to practice.
That's, I mean, I've been through Williams
Since you're
Creek.
classless.
I've been through Williams Creek. We kept the doors locked and windows rolled up because there is a lot of white collar crime in this area.
Okay.
And you never know when somebody's going to come up and try to float a fake bond issue or wrap you up in a Ponzi scheme, and all you're wanting to do is just drive through the neighborhood because you got lost.
Right.
You got lost. You didn't know you were going to end up, my God, in Williams Creek.
But it is true, if you look at the 3rd District, we have a diversity. We have from neighborhoods that are less affluent to some rather affluent neighborhoods. When we talked about the schools earlier, we have North Central, which is part of the Washington Township School District. We have Broad Ripple High, part of IPS. And we have Park Tudor, which is its own category of private school. So we have all sorts of people, neighborhoods, and that's why I say my campaign has always been directed towards the neighborhoods, because each neighborhood is unique. Each one has its own problems. And if you're not talking to every neighborhood, you're ignoring some. This is not the way to represent the 3rd District. You have to talk to each neighborhood and find out what their individual issues are.
No, you can't do that in Williams Creek. Yeah, because the security systems to try to
Well,
approach the front door.
Right.
I'll just have to give them my phone number and let them call me when they want to tell me about their problems.
Is Rocky Ripple in your neighborhood?
Rocky Ripple is not.
That's
Okay.
further west.
That's for
Okay, further west. So the we talked about.
Wait a minute. One thing we did discuss was the parking garage in Broad Ripple.
Oh, the
Well,
parking
yeah,
garage.
I was going away from Broad Ripple, but the
But
parking garage
parking
is
garage
obviously a big issue.
that's another thing that amazes me. We built a parking garage, and okay, it wasn't the prime location, and they did grab 2 people from Broad Ripple Village Association to sit with them. Everything was secret. Now, I don't know why contracts have to be secret.
I do, but never mind.
I mean, it protects the people who are entering into them, but I don't think secret contracts for a city are a good thing. But let's put that aside for a moment. We picked this spot, we picked this project, and then all of a sudden, we're giving over $6 million to the developers, and the city's getting no equity stake, no anything. And they say, oh yes, you know, we'll get more tax revenue. And if you take the numbers that they give you, which are probably optimistic, and you start to crunch them, and this is simple math, this isn't higher math, it's 18 years before that money comes back. And they don't talk about the fact that there was flooding at that intersection, or what improvements need to be made for traffic control when you put a parking garage there. And now it comes out that they want all kinds of changes, and they want to use up all the property, and they want to build some of the shops below the flood level, and they want all of these different things that they weren't talking about before.
And they want to drive through bank.
In the drive-through bank, and the parking spaces should be smaller so they can fit more in. And even at that, they're probably not going to give as many spaces as they promised.
Yeah, so in other words, they gave the money to these people to get the land, gave them the land and the money, and so we could have done that ourselves, and we're almost at the end of the segment. Len, thank you for coming on.
Lynn, why don't you give us your contact information?
Certainly. You can contact me through my website, www.farberforcouncil.com. Email is len, L-E-N, @farberforcouncil.com, and my cell phone is 417-9963.
Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Len.